In the Northwest Province, learners are not being left behind only figuratively, but physically. The Legal Resources Centre that says that scholar transport in the province has collapsed, and it's calling for urgent intervention and has made submissions at the SA Human Rights Commission. To discuss, we're joined by the Legal Resources Centre candidate attorney Claire Rankin. Ms. Rankin, thank you for being with us. How many learners are possibly not going to school because of this?
Well, Francis, it's hard to say from the onset. There are two main issues that really underpin the scholar transport crisis that we see in Northwest at the moment. First, since the start of the year, the province has failed to actually meet the need for scholar transport in the province. So what that means is learners who would otherwise qualify for scholar transport, the estimation sits somewhere in the region of around 8,000, coming from figures recently quoted at the South African Human Rights Commission's investigative inquiry, weren't included in the scholar transport system from the start of the year. What we're seeing currently is protests occurring across the province as a result of non-payment to service providers. So what that means is, over and above the learners that are excluded from the system, the thousands of learners in the province that rely on scholar transport are left vulnerable because of service providers just not having the resources available to them to continue to provide scholar transport, because they aren't being paid by the department and haven't been paid for months.
And why? Why is that?
Well, it's difficult to say. The simple answer is the department claims that it doesn't have money. So the Provincial Department of Community Safety and Transport Management in the Northwest. But if you have to dig a little bit deeper, the reason why they don't have money is it appears as if there hasn't been adequate and proactive planning when it comes to deciding how scholar transport provisioning was going to happen. It's vital that accurate data is used and that planning begins well before the start of an academic year to ensure that provinces are able to budget and request the right amount of resources accordingly. And it just appears as if that hasn't happened in the Northwest this year. It's not something that's unique to this particular academic year, nor unique to the Northwest. It's often just a result of the fact that the planning that underpins scholar transport provisioning lags significantly behind the start of the academic year in most provinces.
All right, so children are the victims of inefficiency, and education, which is a basic right and a constitutional right, is being affected.
Yes, and the absolute tragedy here is it's not a reach to turn around and say that as a component of the right to basic education, learners who qualify and are in need of scholar transport have a right to receive scholar transport. It's been recognized by our courts for almost close to a decade now that the right of access to scholar transport is an integral component of the right to basic education. So we are seeing significant violations of the right to basic education, and what's particularly concerning is the right to education is supposed to be an equalizing right. It's supposed to allow learners access to something that can quite meaningfully change their futures. And scholar transport specifically is supposed to provide equitable access to education. And if it's failing, then there are knock-on repercussions, not just for the right to basic education, but also for the realization of the right to equality.
Yeah, because then the rich will continue to be driven to school, while some are literally left behind. Tell us more about what can you do to try and help these kids, and what response from the department and the Human Rights Commission?
So right now, what we at the Legal Resources Centre are trying to do is reach out to schools in the Northwest, and if I could take the moment to implore any school that's affected by the ongoing protests as a result of non-payment is always welcome to reach out to the Legal Resources Centre. And we're seeking to try and engage the department and put them on terms on behalf of affected schools and affected learners. That is part of the work that we do at the Legal Resources Centre, part of the work that we do that focuses on scholar transport. What we have recently done is made submissions to the investigative inquiry that the South African Human Rights Commission was conducting in the Northwest, particularly focusing on trying to provide a thorough analysis of the Northwest's scholar transport policy in order to try and identify what we think are particular policy weaknesses that underpin the implementation issues that we see arising here. We are also at the Legal Resources Centre calling on the Department of Basic Education and the Department of Transport on a national level to adopt binding minimum norms and standards to guide the provisioning of scholar transport across the country, because we think provincial departments are in dire need of better guidance of what they need to be doing to ensure effective scholar transport provisioning. So our approach is multifaceted. We're trying to assist schools where we can, but we're also trying to ensure broader reform to try and actually fix the deep systemic issues that underpin scholar transport issues across the country.
All right, thank you, Claire Rankin, a candidate attorney from the Legal Resources Centre. Thank you for being with us on South Africa Tonight. We take